I'm Jim from Come Play With Us, and in this video I'm going to be doing my first ever top 10 list. And for this first thing that I picked, I'm picking my favorite genre of games. I'm going to pick my favorite story-driven games. So these are games where story is kind of at the forefront and maybe mechanics are secondary, although some of the best ones, have good mechanics as well. But this one I'm leaning towards more story-driven things. What I'm leaving out of this list, I'm not really going to be doing any kind of like dungeon crawlers. I know most dungeon crawlers will have some sort of story to them, but that's kind of a different category. I think the dungeon crawler, I'm leaning towards this more story-driven kind of thing, things where you're reading narrative and there's kind of a narrative arc to the game or some sort of exploration, open world kind of thing. So, with no further ado, here is my list. Okay, coming in at number 10 here, we have 7th Citadel. Why is this at the bottom of my list? This is one of my favorite games, and I think it's near the bottom of my list because I don't really tend to think of this as a story-driven game. I don't know why. I think it's maybe because this is based off of 7th Continent. This is the second kind of iteration of that game. 7th Continent was an exploration survival game. This one, they kind of added more story elements and made it more of a story-based game. I mean, you have threats that you go through, so for each threat you get a book, and in the book you have chapters, and you kind of follow along at the different chapters going through the story. So it is story-driven. I do really love this game. I love how you build the map and explore the map as you go. It's very exploration focused, and there's like kind of little story beats in there. But I mean, I think the focus in this game is still kind of the exploration and how the world changes as you move around and stuff like that. And that's why this is kind of near the bottom of my list for this list. But it is one of my favorites. This is an outstanding story-driven game. This is definitely one you should check out if you're interested in the genre. It plays good solo or two. I don't think I'd go much beyond 2 players on this one, even though I think you can play up to 4. But it's and it is campaign, so you kind of got to be invested in this game. You get like a really cool campaign pamphlet here to track your pamphlets. Yeah, I really love this one. The one drawback to this one is it's card based here, so you've got like a gajillion cards, and you do have to manage those cards, and so it kind of does feel like a bit of a filing system when you're playing that. But if you can get past that, the game is really neat. The exploration is really fun, and the story is really good. So number 10 on my list, 7th Citadel. Okay, number 9 on my list is a unique game for story-driven games. I think this is the only game on my list, so it's a bit of a spoiler, that is a competitive game. So this one is not cooperative. This plays 1 to 3, but I think 3 is probably, the funny thing is I've not played it with 3 yet. I've played it with mostly with just 2 players. I think 3 would be the sweet spot though, because the way this game kind of works, for every story, there's basically 3 main characters, and each player takes one of those characters. And generally in the stories I played anyways, each character, you're seeing each character's perspective on the events in the story, which is really neat because you can kind of see the story from 3 different angles. You're trying to complete your destiny, but I think the cool thing about this game is just that the fact that it's a competitive story-driven game. Unfortunately, it is app-driven. I know a lot of people don't like app-driven, so if you don't like an app-driven game, this one might not be for you. And some criticism of this game is it feels more like a video game than a board game. I like the app integration in this. I think it's well done. I kind of agree that the video game elements are pretty strong in this, and the board just seems to be kind of like a placeholder, just to have some physical presence on the table. But I don't mind that. I do really enjoy this game. I think it's really neat to play through a story where you're kind of competing with other players that have different perspectives on the story, and as you're trying to complete your destiny. I've had some really good games of this. My kids like it. It's a lot of fun, and there's a few expansions you can get with the different stories. So number 9 on my list, Destinies. Why it's further down the list, I think probably the app-driven nature of it. I'm not, I don't mind app-driven games, but I'm not, super big on app-driven games, and it's because of the perspectives in the game. This is one I do tend to play a lot of my story-driven ones solo. This one you can play it solo, but I don't really want to because I think it would ruin the kind of the that kind of hook in the game where you have the different characters that see the different perspectives. I like seeing what the finding out at the end of the game what the other person's perspective in the game is, and I think that's one of the more interesting things as the story unfolds. So that's my number 9, Destinies. Okay, number 8 on my list is this ginormous bad boy, Oathsworn into the Deepwood. Yeah, this game is amazing. The story in here is amazing. This is technically, I mean, I consider it's not, why it's later in the list here is, again, it's not really a story-driven game. Half of it is and half of it isn't. So this is, most consider this a boss battler. So the game kind of has 2 halves. The first half, you're doing a choose your own story, adventure kind of story thing and it has narration and everything. You go through this really cool story where you're trying to find out what kind of monster is haunting the village, or whatnot, wherever you happen to be in the story. Because this is a campaign game, and then how well you do in trying to hunt down what type of monster it is, find its weaknesses, that kind of thing, will determine kind of some bonuses and stuff that you get when you go into the boss fight, which is the second half of the game, where you have the boss fight. So this is really kind of a boss battler, but it has a really good story half to it, and because it's half the game, that's why it's further down this list. But oh man, is this a good game. I also really love the fact that you can choose between rolling dice or drawing cards, and and often in games we'll start when we first started playing this, we were drawing the cards because we're like, oh yeah, we'll get the kind of more reliable curves on the dice rolls and stuff, and then we started rolling the dice, and the dice are so much fun because with this system you can roll as many dice as you want. It's kind of like a push your luck system. If you get a certain number of symbols, then you fail. So that's really fun too. So as we got more into the game, we just ended up using the dice more. And then sometimes if the dice aren't going your way, you can just flip back to using the cards. It's a silly little thing, but it does make the game really enjoyable. The boss fight is really fun too. This has Gloomhaven level kind of tactics with the cards in the boss fight, where you kind of got a cooldown system. When you play a card, it goes kind of into a cooldown system, and it's really trying to game that system to get your cards back into your hand. So much to love about this game. The story is really great, but again, it's lower down on this list just because the story is kind of just half of this game. I wanted to put it in here because it has such a great story, and the story, the mechanics of the story system are really fun, but this is half boss battler, so that's why it gets number 8 on my list. Number 7 on my list is Lands of Galier. Now this is a true story-driven game. This one is not really a campaign game. So that's one really good thing about this game. It's single session, but it is persistent world, which makes this really interesting. Every time you play this game, it basically takes off from where it left off. And I didn't put any of the cards out here because I didn't want to ruin anything. But the towns change over the course of the game. Different events happen and things that put stuff on the map. Your character there's not a ton of character progression in this. You can kind of change your ability. That's kind of one of the knocks I have on this game, is that you can switch these abilities around a bit, but there's really no leveling up. It's just depending on the kind of gear you have and the experiences you have in the game. And there's no real goals in this game. You get quests that you follow, and then you're just kind of in there you're really playing this game to get the story, to have little adventures, to find out more about this world and your characters, and just to have an interesting play session. It does play fairly short. I think it's usually about under an hour to play one game of this. It's quick and easy to set up and tear down. This one does use an app, but it's really well done. The app just gives you the stories and stuff, and then there's like kind of a card system with the app. But oh man, this is a fun little game. The stories are really, the writing in here is really well done. Like I said, it's a very simple dice system here. Like the check system is very simple. It's just based on these attributes you roll. Depending on what type of challenge you're doing, you'll roll dice depending on how good you are in that attribute, and that's pretty much it. It has a very streamlined, simple dice system that runs basically all the challenges in the game, and you're just going around having adventures. And this one plays 1 to 4. I play this one mostly solo. I have played with my daughter. She liked it, and I don't see any problems playing with more players. You're just because the turns are pretty quick, your little adventures are quick, and everybody, at least 2 of the players are pretty involved in each turn. I don't see much problem with playing with more players, but I generally play this one solo. So probably solo or 2 is probably the best. And yeah, this is a really nice, streamlined, simple, story-driven game. That's Lands of Galier. Number 6 on my list is one of my favorite games of all time, Earthborne Rangers. This is a basically story-driven but card game. It's all cards. You're basically it's very similar to kind of Fantasy Flight living card games. Works similar to games in that line like Lord of the Rings or Marvel Champions. So it's a system like that, where you, at the beginning of the game, you pick your character, you build your characters. It's kind of like a role-playing game where you pick sets of cards based on different traits and what roles you want to play as your character, and the character you pick. Then you put that deck together, and then you go into a world and you live in that world for 30 days. So it's a campaign-style game. Each session lasts, about an hour, depending, kind of what goes on. And it's basically go anywhere and do anything you want. There's an overarching storyline. You could ignore it, I guess. I haven't finished a full campaign yet. I'm about 2/3 of the way through my first campaign. But yeah, you could just do whatever you want. You can just wander around, go into towns, talk to people, do little quests for them, and then you'll get rewards that basically let you swap cards in and out of your deck. So it's kind of like a deck upgrading game, more than a deck building game. And yeah, you just live in this world and go on adventures. The other cool thing about this is post-apocalyptic, but it's not dark. It's not a dark post-apocalyptic world. The apocalypse is over in this game, and the world is kind of coming back to life, and you're helping it along. You're going around helping people rebuild, that kind of thing. So it's really neat in that way, where usually the post-apocalyptic is very dark, and this one's not a dark game. I mean, there's dark elements in it. There's monsters and such that you have to fight. But yeah, the world itself is a very neat world, and it's not super dark. I really love the system in here, the way the challenge system works. So all the cards that are played in the game have kind of like a symbol on the bottom, and whenever you have to do a challenge, you need to draw a challenge card. Kind of adds a bit of randomness to the check. But also at the bottom of that card, it'll have a symbol that triggers all the things, all the cards that are basically sitting in front of you in your tableau. And that's how the world reacts. So if you have antelope in front of you and there's a tiger, the tiger might go after the antelope instead of you, and things like that. So it's a really interesting game that way. The world really seems to come to life in front of you. It's ingenious how they did it with cards. This is absolutely one of my favorite games, and I do play this one a lot. This is Earthborne Rangers. Okay, getting into the upper part of my list, coming in at number 5, and the inspiration for this list, because I've played this recently and I thought, you know what, these are my favorite type of games. I want to build a list of, because I have a lot of story-driven games. I want to build a list of my story-driven games, and this is also one of my favorites. This is a recent release. This is Vantage. What's different about this one? This one's a single-session story-driven game. It's similar to Galier in that respect. But this one is not persistent world, but what's kind of persistent here from game to game that you need to acquire is the knowledge of the world, because in your first couple of games of this one, you're going to be kind of running around aimlessly because you won't have a hot clue what you're doing. Every game you basically you start fresh. You start in a location. All you can see is your location card, and it'll have some actions on it. You can do one action per location card you run into. There's a gajillion location cards in this game, and you'll have a mission and a destiny you can do if you want to do. You complete both to get the epic victory, or just one to get a regular victory. and you kind of just wander around and try to complete your mission and your destiny, and having stories and stuff like that. There are 7 storybooks in this game. There's one for kind of each attribute in the game, and you're going to be rolling. The game is based on this very simple dice challenge system where you pick an action. You look at the story thing, it'll tell you how many dice you need to roll, and depending on that, you'll have some attributes here that will go down. And you always succeed. That's another really interesting thing about this game. You always succeed at your dice checks. There's no failure condition. It's just how much you're going to pay for it. And then when any of your attributes get down to 0, you basically lose the game, or you can keep going. It's really kind of freeform that way. And this game is just go around, explore an entire world, and have fun. The thing I really love about this game is it is more complex than it seems. When you first start playing it, it's very random, but then you kind of discover there's a bunch of built-in systems within this game, and the game is really inviting you to learn how this world works and figure out all the different systems that are within the game. In fact, the missions kind of push you towards learning a system in each game, one of these systems, and there's 20 something odd missions in here, so there's a lot to learn. And as you play it more, you're going to learn how the world works more, and you'll kind of get better and better at the game and have some really cool stories. I really love this game. I love the fact that it's just single session again. It's not campaign, even though to get more out of this game, you do really need to play it more. But I really like that, because the more you play this game, the more interesting the game gets. So yeah, it's not campaign. I don't feel like I have to get to the end of it. I can just play it whenever I want, and every time I play it, I learn a little bit more about this world. Really awesome game. This is Vantage, my number 5. My number 4 game is Dragon Eclipse from Awakened Realms here. So this is a really interesting story-based game. It's essentially Pokemon board game, but this is dragons, of course, in their old world. And this one has basically there's kind of a couple phases in this game. You'll have the story phase, so you'll go to a scene you'll have, and you get to pick places to go and read little story bits. And kind of have a little adventure on the scene. You can see there's a giant story adventure journal here, which has some really beautiful illustrations in it. And then as you're doing that, you'll run into little encounters, and you'll have combats on one of these maps here, and you'll face off against another dragon or something like that. And there's kind of 2 things you can do usually when you run into a dragon. You can fight it and defeat it, or you could try to tame it and add it to your collection. And of course, because this is, like I said, it's kind of like Pokemon, a lot of the focus of the game is collecting these dragons, and then, you get to play with 2 per chapter or whatever, what have you. And it's really interesting to, collect all the little dragons to see what they do, decide which ones you want to play. It's fun going after new dragons and trying to tame them. I love the little mini game in there. This is a card-based game, kind of like Battler. So you're going to build your deck, your dragon decks, and the way it works is you'll get a row of cards, and depending on which one you pick to execute, you'll get bonus crystals and stuff. And you can use those crystals to execute special powers and all that kind of stuff. It's a really fun game. I love the story part to this. I love the story. Awakened Realms is really good at telling really good stories. They have very good writing. I love the combat system and the card play in this game, and there's just so much to love about this game. This is one of my favorite games. It is quick to set up and tear down, but of course it is a campaign game, so you're going to be playing a campaign. I believe it's like 10 or 12 sessions to play, and each session takes about 2 hours. So it is a longer game to play, but it is so much fun. And the other thing is it does double as you can play a head-to-head card battler, so you and a friend can pick a Pokemon or a dragon face off against each other, and you can also play it that way. So yeah, really awesome game. They've got another standalone set coming out that's crowdfunding soon, so this is one to check out. My number 4, Dragon Eclipse. My number 3 story-driven game is going to be another one from Awakened Realms. This is ISS Vanguard. Now, this one gets a bit of a bump because it's basically Mass Effect, the board game, and Mass Effect is one of my absolute favorite video games of all time. I've played all of them, some of them several times. So when this game was announced. I was very intrigued by it, and it does deliver. It gives me the Mass Effect feels in a board game, and the story is awesome. I love how this game works. Probably the weakest part of this game is the dice system. That's probably one criticism you'll hear about, that the dice system is not that great, which is kind of what the main mechanics are built on, the challenge system. I don't mind the dice system so much. I love the fact that you're exploring planets in this game and you're managing a ship, and you have a huge crew. You got a big deck of crew like this, so you're not managing one or two characters. You've got a whole crew of characters you're managing. Every time you go on down to a planet, you're picking a few of them to come with you and play, and then they can upgrade to different levels and that kind of thing. And characters come, they die, characters die off. You hire new ones and all that kind of stuff. Really awesome. And the most innovative thing about this game is this binder. So it's the first game I've ever played that came with an actual 3-ring binder here. And why this is so awesome is because whenever you want to play this game, for a game this size, it really sets up easy. You just grab this binder, you flip to the first page in the binder here, where I'll tell you how to resume a saved game, and you just follow the instructions, and you just go page by page. You go through the bridge. You're gonna deal with your crew, think problems with the crew on the ship. You're gonna upgrade your ship. You're gonna research. You're gonna research new technologies and that kind of thing. You're going to kind of build stuff. Heal your crew, upgrade your crew, all that kind of stuff, and you just keep flipping through this binder as you go through all these steps until it gets to the part where you're kind of departing for the planet, and then you put the book away, you set up the planet, and it tells you that step by step, and you're ready to go. And then when your session's over, you go back to the binder and it tells you how to pack it all up. And so like setup and teardown is part of the game. That is ingenious. I don't know why no other game has done this. Instead of spending like an hour or 45 minutes setting up a game before I got to play it, I'm just setting up the game as I play, tearing it down as I play. And when you're done, the game is packed up and ready to go. That is awesome. On top of that, it has a really fun story. It is an Awakened Realms campaign, so keep in mind that there's there's 30 to whatever 50 hours of I played this a ton. I probably put in 30 or 40 hours, and I don't even know how far in the campaign I am, but I love this game to death. It is easy to pull out. I don't play it all the time anymore, but even when I come back to it and pull it out, I don't have to go and read the rule book again. Because of this binder system, I just pull it out and play. It has a nice app with good voice narration that's free to go with it. You don't need the app, but it's a nice augment to the game. I love this game to death. ISS Vanguard, my number 3 story-driven game. Okay, down to number 2. My number 2 story-driven game of all time is Sleeping Gods. This is by Ryan Lockett. I am a Ryan Lockett fanboy. I have a lot of his games, and when he announced that he was putting out a story-driven game, adventure game, I was super intrigued, and it did not disappoint. This game is amazing. I think he stated that what he went out to design here is kind of like Skyrim, the board game, and it does give you that feeling. This is an open world game where you can go anywhere, do anything. You're just trying to collect a certain amount of totems. You don't know how many, but that's all you're trying to do, and you're just going around having adventures. You go, you explore, you read through the gajillion and one little story blurbs that are in here. You can go anywhere you want there. It's totally open world, and it has a really neat combat system that's kind of puzzly, where you kind of got a grid and you're doing damage on a grid, and you can splash onto other characters. It's very different from other combat systems, and it's kind of more of a puzzle than luck based, and so that's really neat. It is the original one is quite complex and a little bit fiddly, but I really love it. The new one, I don't like the story. Doesn't seem as epic as the first one. Like, I don't like the story as much in this one, and it doesn't seem quite as epic, but it is a lot easier. This first one is not very forgiving. It's very hard. You're playing 8 characters all the time in this one, so if you're playing this solo, you're running 8 characters. Now, it's pretty easy to run each character because you're really just activating them to get symbols on them to help you with with basically dice checks, but you're flipping cards instead of rolling dice to do your challenges. So it's not like you're running full kind of like role playing type characters. They are small, but you do have 8 of them to manage, and plus the captain, which makes that 9. They've cut that down to like 4 in the Distant Skies one. Plus, I like the combat system in here a lot better. It's very similar to the original combat system, but they added a combat deck that takes it from a fun little puzzly combat system to something that's really awesome. I wish the combat system from this one was in this one, because I do like this one better. The world feels bigger and more epic in this one than this one, but they're both excellent games. I'm glad I have both. I do play them both. I played them mostly solo, but I've also played 2-player. I don't think there'd be too much of a problem playing higher player counts than this. The turns are pretty quick, and you're all kind of involved in the story. And there is kind of a shared element, there with the worker placement and stuff. But man, this is such a good game. It's so much. I mean, if you've ever played a Ryan Lockett game like Near or Far or Now or Never, like the Above and Below, where they have those, where they have the strategy games with the little story blurbs, and if you've ever wanted to delve deeper into one of those worlds, well, this is it, Sleeping Gods. I do think he's also got a new one coming out, not Sleeping Gods, but a new world or something like that. So I'm really looking forward to that. This is my number 2 story-driven game, Sleeping Gods. Okay, and my number 1 story-driven game is another one from Awakened Realms. I know 3 of the top 4 Awakened Realms. I am a bit of an Awakened Realms fanboy, but I do think they really have story-driven games down, and I do think they make the best story-driven games on the market right now, and they've got a couple more coming out that I'm really looking forward to. But this is Tainted Grail, one of the absolute best stories in a game ever. Now, I'll admit there were some problems with the original game. The original game was crazy hard, and I've not completed the campaign yet. I had to restart like 2 or 3 times. I played this game I've only played this one solo. I would play it with, I think, up to 2. But for me, it's mostly a solo game, and it's just really hard. I had to find a way to play this to make it playable, which was a knock on the original one. And basically, the hard part about it is these menhirs, and this is kind of the mechanism they use to make sure only a certain amount of the map is visible at a time, and it kind of restricts where you can go during your session. And but oh man, the story in this is so good. The characters are flawed, and that's what I like. Like, they all have some kind of flaw that you've got to work around. And this is a very dark world, so if you don't like dark themes, this might not be for you. But it's based on kind of like an alternate King Arthur kind of theme, and the world is so interesting. This story is so good. I love the exploration in this. Going to one of these places and seeing what's going on. The combat system, it has a kind of like a dual combat diplomacy system where you're basically building 2 decks. You've got a combat deck and a diplomacy deck. And diplomacy and combat work kind of similarly. They work on a chaining card system. In the diplomacy mechanic, you're just basically, it's kind of like a tug of war where you're trying to keep kind of move the conversation or whatever kind of diplomacy you're trying to do to the good, and it's getting pulled back. And combat is combat. Both of those systems are really good, and it's really neat to kind of build both of those decks. The level building in this here is really neat. Building up your attributes, and then once you kind of get your attribute to max, you get a special power for that attribute. Really kind of neat. I love how that all works. I get lost in this world all the time. I probably should have finished the campaign by now, but like I said, I had to restart it a few times because I just got to a point where I couldn't continue. I was trying to play the true solo that was in the rules, and I think the solo I ended up playing is in the rules. It's kind of like the easy mode where you treat everything as I play with 2-handed, and you treat everything, all the kind of payments and everything like you're playing 1 player, and I think that works. That's a sweet spot for the original game. The new one, you don't have to do that. I think the new one, they fixed all these flaws. they've made a bunch of improvements in the new one. So I think mechanically the second one is the better game. But the story, I mean, I haven't played much of this one, so I can't really comment on the story of this one. But you know, it's the same writing and everything, so I'm assuming it's just as good. But oh man, the writing in this one is so good, and like I said, I love the combat and diplomacy systems. This was kind of my first foray into Awakened Realms story-driven games, and it's still one of my favorites. I love coming back to this game, and yeah, I look forward to what Awakened Realms is doing next. They've got kind of like a role-playing one coming out next, and I can't wait for that to come out. But yeah, so that's my list. As you can see, I have a lot of story-driven games. I love, this is my favorite genre, especially, you know, because playing solo, I do play a lot of solo games, and I think the story-driven ones are the most fun. They're kind of like playing a video game, right? Except you get to sit down and take your time. I really love all of these games. I hope you got something out of this list, and this helps you find a story-driven game that you'll love. As usual, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.